Lesson 15, we're locating ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. And in this lesson, we're going to draw our own coordinate plane and talk about and number the scales for both the x and the y-axis. So the point represents 0 on the number line. We're going to draw a number line to the right, starting at 0. And the left, and then we're going to draw our vertical as well. So your axis might look something like this, your coordinate plane. Now all points on the coordinate plane are described with reference to the origin, and that is the origin. What is the origin and what are its coordinates? The origin is where the x-axis or number line and the y-axis or number line cross, and the location is 0 for both number lines. So its coordinates are 0, 0. To describe locations of points in the coordinate plane, we use ordered pairs, of numbers. Order is important, so on the coordinate plane we use the form xy. First coordinate represents the point's location from 0 on the x-axis, and the second coordinate represents the point's location from 0 on the y-axis. Now on the exercises 1 through 3, you were using the coordinate plane to answer the questions, and your answers may vary, but you were to graph at least 5 points on the x-axis and label their coordinates, and then tell what they have in common, and of course that depends on, it doesn't depend. If you graph at least 5 points on the x-axis, and let's take a look at that, I will choose 5 of my own. If I'm putting a coordinate on the x-axis, that would be 1 there. Well, we'll put 1 over here in the negative, 1 here, 1 here, and let's even put 1 on the origin. There are 5 points on the x-axis. And you should label your coordinates. I could call these A, B, C, D, E. But my coordinates have one thing, one very important thing in common. And the thing they have in common is, let me just list their values up here. I have the origin, which is 0, 0. I also have a point at -3, 0. I also have a point at 2, 2, 0. I have a point at 6, 0. And finally, I have a point at 8, 0. So what do the coordinates have in common? Well, they all have a 0, or they have 0 for the y-coordinate. So what must be true about any point that lies on the x-axis? If it's on the x-axis, then the y-coordinate must be 0. If we've found 5 points and that's all true, so then in exercise 2, they ask us to graph at least 5 points on the y-axis and label their coordinates. So let's put some here. Let's include the origin. And there's 5 points. Their coordinates, 0, 0 is our origin. And we have, now we're not going back and forth at all, so 0, 2. And then another one up above it at 0, 4. And then continuing down, we have one at 0, negative 3. Around, it looks like it's a little before that. And another at 0, negative 4. And naturally, we're going to ask the same question. What do the coordinates of your points have in common? They all have zero for the x-coordinate. So what must be true about any point that lies on the y-axis? Any point on the y-axis must have 0 for the x-coordinate. If the origin is the only point with 0 for both coordinates, what must be true about the origin? It must be on both axes. Axes, that's plural for axis. It must be on both axes. Now the x and y axes divide the coordinate plane into regions that are called quadrants. Why are the regions called quadrants? Well, quad means 4, and the number lines divide the graph into 4 parts. The regions that you worked with most in 5th grade would be the positive areas, especially this area called quadrant 1, where there are no negatives. These quadrants are labeled with Roman numerals, and the upper right is Roman numeral 1, that's quadrant 1. And we go counterclockwise. So this is quadrant 2. Quadrant 3. And quadrant 4. In exercise 4, we're asked to locate and label each point described by the ordered pair, and then indicate which of the quadrants the points lie. So point A would be at 7, 2. We go 7 across and up 2. Please notice we do not draw lines connecting those points. Point B is 3, negative 4. So we go across 3 and down 4. And you can see I continued on. Our next step is we have to tell which quadrant each of the points is located. Point A is located in quadrant 1. Point B is located, remember we're counterclockwise, is located in quadrant 4. Point C is located also in quadrant 4. Point D is located in quadrant 2. Remember, this is 1, 2. And point E is located in quadrant 3. Remember, 1, 2, 3. Now, exercise 5 asks us to write the coordinates of at least one other point in each of the 4 quadrants. So your answers may vary from mine, but there are a few things that will be similar. If I'm going to write the coordinates of a point in quadrant 1, I might perhaps say 2, 3. And in quadrant 2, I might say negative 3, 4. In quadrant 3, I could perhaps say negative 3, negative 4. And in quadrant 4, I could say 3, negative 4. I'm even going to change my first quadrant to 3, 4. That way we can see the relationship, similarities and differences in them. Similarities in the points within each quadrant. Well, I noticed that both of the coordinates in quadrant 1 are positive. Both of the coordinates in quadrant 3 are negative. The coordinates in quadrants 2 and 4 are one positive and one negative, and they are flipped from each other. We could continue on. The y-coordinates in both quadrant 1 and 2 are positive. The y-coordinates in both quadrant 3 and 4 are negative. The x-coordinates in quadrants 1 and 4 are positive. The x-coordinates in quadrant 2 and 3 are negative. Those are all qualities that will remain the same for any coordinates within those quadrants. So in review, the x-axis and y-axis of the coordinate plane are number lines that intersect at 0 on each number line. The axes create 4 quadrants in the coordinate plane, and points in the coordinate plane lie either on an axis or in one of the 4 quadrants.